Welcome to the deep dive. We've all heard the narratives, haven't we? The big talk about Bitcoin going to the moon, this almost religious belief in decentralization saving us from, like, the big bad banks.
Yeah, and the shiny promise of a completely new, totally fair financial system, innovation, freedom, digital utopias. It all sounds pretty amazing.
It does. If you only listen to the hype, you'd think blockchain was, I don't know, some kind of perfect, unbreakable fortress, immune to all the old problems.
Right. But today we're going down a different road. We're not here to preach about decentralization. Definitely not celebrating those moonshots.
No, absolutely not. Today's mission, it's more like a journey into crypto's digital graveyard. We're doing what feels like a brutal post-mortem. And the core question, it's unsettling really, is this. What actually happens when you take away basically every human safety net from finance and just replace it all with code? What happens when code is the final word, no appeals?
We're going to really dig into the reality, not the romantic story. We'll be talking about staggering amounts lost just because someone forgot a password, billion-dollar heists, and we're talking sophisticated operations, even state actors. And the old classics, Ponzi schemes, just dressed up in new tech clothes, and, protocols and companies just collapsing. Systems that seem to punish any mistake, any malicious act with this kind of permanent, unforgiving silence.
So, buckle up. Let's, for a bit, forget the white paper dreams, forget the decentralized promises. We are stepping into crypto's digital graveyard. It's littered with forgotten passwords, stolen fortunes, and just the wreckage of pure, raw human ambition. And let's be honest, often greed. It's been messy, really expensive for millions, and the body count. Still rising. Okay, so let's start with what seems absurd, but it's tragically common. The self-inflicted wounds, people just losing their own money because, they messed up. But here's the kicker, the huge difference in crypto. There's no forgot password button. No friendly bank manager to call. No Strelo plus Z for that terrible mistake.
And this isn't just like a few isolated cases, a couple of people who aren't tech savvy. Research suggests it's staggering. Somewhere between 2.78 and 3.79 million Bitcoin. That's roughly 17 to 23% of all Bitcoin ever created just vanished forever. Why? Because someone, somewhere, lost their private key, lost their seed phrase, forgot the passphrase. Just think about that. Nearly a fifth of the total supply. Gone. Just like that. Into the digital void. Irretrievable.
Wow. Okay, sure. That number probably includes the million or so Bitcoin held by Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator, right? Which maybe were never meant to move.
Probably. Yeah, untouchable.
But the rest.
The human
majority. That's just pure user error. It's not a hack. It's people losing the keys to their own kingdom. No backup plan.
It really is the fundamental difference from, traditional finance, isn't it? In the old system, you have layers of help, intermediaries, banks, regulations. They exist to help you recover from exactly these kinds of mistakes.
All right, forget your online banking password. You get an email, a text, easy.
Lose your debit card, they send a new one. Takes a few days. But in crypto, you are your own bank, your own security chief, your own final line of defense. And if you mess that up, the system, by its very design, offers zero mercy, no second chances. It's a massive shift of responsibility onto the user.
And these aren't just numbers. There are real, often gut-wrenching human stories. Like James Howells, the guy in Wales, an early miner. Back in 2013, he made a mistake he must replay in his head constantly. He threw out a hard drive.
Oh, no.
A hard drive with 7,500 Bitcoin on it. Today. That's worth about, $750 million.
Unbelievable.
He's been pleading with the local council for years to let him excavate a specific landfill. He's convinced it's still there, buried under rubbish. And imagine telling your grandkids you literally threw away a fortune that could have bought them an island. Generations of security just gone.
And then there's Stephen Thomas. His situation is just incredibly precarious. He has this encrypted USB drive, right, holding 7,002 Bitcoin. Over $200 million. The terrifying part, he only has 2 password guesses left. After that, the drive auto-erases. Everything gone. Permanently. It's like his own personal ticking time bomb. Constant, unimaginable stress. It's such a stark, almost cruel example of how unforgiving this tech is.
So looking at these stories, James Howells, Stephen Thomas, does it suggest that this idea of radical self-custody, be your own bank, while maybe ideologically pure for some, it just doesn't work for most people at scale? Are we expecting too much?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, be your own bank sounds empowering, right? But in reality, it puts this impossible burden of perfect, flawless security on every single person. Humans make mistakes. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
In traditional finance, those mistakes are usually fixable. On crypto, they often mean absolute, irreversible financial ruin. This huge amount of irreversible loss, I'd argue it's almost inevitable when you mix human fallibility with a system built for absolute finality. You know, Chainalysis, the analytics firm, they try to spin it positively, saying the loss rate is slowing down because people are getting smarter.
But hang on. When something like 13% of all Bitcoin ever made is still considered gone for good, just erased from existence, you have to ask, what kind of progress is that, really?
Right.
That's a massive, permanent loss of value from the whole system, purely because of a design choice that puts self-custody and immutability above everything else. It's a feature, not a bug, that punishes mistakes with absolute finality.
Yeah.
And it raises a huge question. Is a system that allows this much unrecoverable, self-inflicted loss really a robust financial system for everyone?
A very good question.
Okay, so if you manage not to lose your own money by deleting a file or forgetting a password, well, don't relax just yet. There are plenty of other people eager to take it from you. We're talking about good old-fashioned theft. And the threat landscape here has changed dramatically. It's gone from like amateur hacks by lone wolves to incredibly sophisticated operations, even state-sponsored ones with geopolitical motives.
The numbers are just staggering. 2022 was a massive year for crypto thieves. Yeah. A huge $3.7 billion stolen. Now, okay, that number dipped a bit in 2023, down to $1.7 billion.
Okay, a dip. Why?
Well, it seems mostly due to fewer big DeFi hacks, decentralized finance exploits. Not necessarily because everyone suddenly got amazing at security, but the crooks are definitely still busy. We're still seeing over $2 billion a year stolen in 2024. And yeah, disturbingly, some of the best thieves in this game, they literally wear military uniforms.
Let's talk about some of the big ones, the notorious cases, because these aren't just stats. They're like these epic tales of digital robbery that really shaped how people see this whole space. First up, got to be Mt. Gox, the OG disaster.
Whoa, Gox. Yeah.
It's the Tokyo Exchange, right? Between 2011 and 2014, at its peak, it handled something like 80% of all Bitcoin trades. 80%. And then, poof, it lost 850,000 Bitcoin. That was $450 million back then. Today, forget about it. Astronomical value.
And the truly shocking part, 650,000 of those Bitcoin still missing, just gone. Like a legendary lost treasure in a digital vault nobody can open. For the, 24,000 customers? Total wipeout. A decade later, they are still waiting, still hoping for partial refunds from this incredibly complex bankruptcy process. The shadow of that one theft still hangs over crypto. A brutal lesson about trusting centralized platforms.
What's wild is the very thing they praise, the immutable blockchain, means that once it's stolen, getting it back often needs old school stuff. Law enforcement, courts.
Exactly. Centralized intervention, which kind of goes against the whole decentralized idea, doesn't it? It's a fundamental conflict right there.
Then came Bitfinex in 2016. Hackers grabbed 119,756 Bitcoin. $71 million then, but over $12 billion today. Now, this one had a rare twist. U.S. investigators actually recovered about 94,000 Bitcoin in 2022. Years of digging.
Which was huge, right? Biggest DOJ asset seizure ever. A real win for law enforcement, showing they can trace this stuff sometimes.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's still years of legal battles before users might see any of that recovered money. We're talking $9 billion plus. The recovery process is incredibly slow, complex, often involves international law. It's cold comfort for people who've waited years, often desperately.
Japan got hit hard again in 2018. Coincheck. This time it was $530 million in NEM tokens, not Bitcoin, but it showed the exact same security holes that arguably doomed Mt. Gox.
Same old story. And the suspicion fell heavily on North Korea's Lazarus Group. State-sponsored hackers having a field day showed their skills were getting sharper, their targets bigger.
And even the giants aren't safe.
Yeah.
Binance, huge exchange, right? 2019, they lost about 7,000 Bitcoin. Around $40 million then. Lifted straight from their hot wallet.
Right, the online one. More convenient, but way more vulnerable.
Now, to be fair, Binance did cover the losses from their own funds, which is good. Shows they had reserves.
Commendable, yeah.
But it still hammers home the point. If your crypto is on an exchange, any exchange, especially a centralized one, it's a target. You're trusting a third party. And that trust always comes with risk, sometimes risk you don't even see.
Absolutely. And then DeFi, decentralized finance, exploded. And guess what? New tech, new vulnerabilities, whole new attack surfaces opened up.
Like cross-chain bridges. Those things designed to let assets move between different blockchains that can't normally talk to each other.
Exactly. They became massive honeypots, huge amounts of value locked in one place. 2021, the Poly network hack. $610 million stolen. Then, in a really weird twist, the hacker gave most of it back.
Weird. Like a polite stick-up.
Sort of. But then the Ronin Bridge, another big one, got hit in 2022, around $540 million gone. And again, fingers pointed straight at the Lazarus Group from North Korea. So much for those supposedly bulletproof smart contracts, huh? The complexity just creates new ways for things to break.
And it's not just direct theft from platforms. Ransomware. That's just booming. 2023.
Yeah.
A record $1.1 billion paid out in crypto to attackers. Nearly double the year before.
Yeah, the FBI had that win against the Hive Group, stopped maybe $130 million in payments, which is great, don't get me wrong.
But it's a drop in the ocean.
A tiny drop compared to the total flow of illicit money. The scale of the problem is just immense.
And here's that weird thing about blockchain transparency, right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, it helps police trace funds sometimes.
To a point.
But the criminals adapt constantly. They're using stablecoins more and more, those coins pegged to the dollar, less volatile. And they use sophisticated mixer services that just tumble the crypto around to hide where it came from.
Right. Makes tracing incredibly hard. And stablecoins now make up, 63% of illicit transaction volume? So Bitcoin's role as the criminal currency is actually shrinking.
But still, whether it's Bitcoin or a stablecoin, it's still someone's stolen money funding crime. And that transparency is not the magic bullet people thought it would be.
Not at all.
Okay, so hacks are technical exploits. Scams. Scams are where human psychology meets pure, naked greed. And it's just catastrophic. A match made in financial hell for so many people.
Chainalysis reported $5.9 billion in crypto scam revenue in 2022 alone. Billion. And there's this direct link, almost poetic. Crypto prices go up, scams explode, everyone rushes in, FOMO, blinded by dollar signs.
Yeah, fear of missing out.
Market crashes, scam revenue drops too. It's like the bull market hype completely switches off people's common sense, their basic due diligence.
It's amazing. And we're not just talking small-time cons here. We're talking massive, elaborate Ponzi schemes, dressed up with fancy blockchain words, complex tech talk, all to look legit.
Oh, yeah. They promise impossible returns. They leverage the hype, the novelty, the lack of regulation to trap people who might normally be careful. The scale and the sheer audacity are just chillin' sometimes.
Let's hit the big ones. The granddaddy, OneCoin, active 2014-2016. Famous because, well, it had no actual blockchain.
Right. Should tell you everything.
Purely centralized fraud, led by the crypto queen, Ruja Ignatova. Still on the run, she swindled an estimated $4 billion globally. People paid real money, fiat, for imaginary coins that didn't exist anywhere verifiable. Some operators got caught, sure, but the money, gone, vanished. Victims got nothing.
Then there was BitConnect, 2016 to 2018. If you were around then, you remember the hey, hey, hey guy. Became a total meme.
Oh, I remember. Cringeworthy.
It captured that wild, crazy enthusiasm. This thing promised 1% daily returns. Daily. Just a massive red flag for anyone who understands basic math. It pulled in about $2.4 billion before it imploded spectacularly in 2018, left devastation in its wake.
And yeah, the U.S. government clawed back, $56 million from one promoter? Tiny victory. But the founder?
Probably living it up somewhere nice. While his victims have nothing, most of that $2.4 billion just disappeared. Shows how hard it is to get money back from these global, decentralized scams.
Plus Token, 2018-2019, another huge one. Based in China, multi-level marketing Ponzi, promising crazy returns from crypto arbitrage, supposedly. The Chinese authorities actually were incredibly efficient here. They seized $4.2 billion worth of crypto from the scheme in 2020, including almost 195,000 Bitcoin.
Wow, impressive seizure.
Yeah, scam busted, crooks jailed.
Yeah.
But the victims got nothing back directly. The seized crypto went straight into the Chinese government's pocket. Imagine losing your money and then the government just keeps it. Bitter.
Ouch. Then there was Mirror Trading International, MTI. Chainalysis called it the biggest scam of 2020. Took about 23,000 Bitcoin, worth maybe $589 million then, from 470,000 people, mostly in South Africa.
How did they pitch it?
Automated trading profits, hands-off guaranteed returns, classic Ponzi. Of course there were no profits. CEO vanished, victims, good luck getting anything back. Legal stuff drags on, but recovery chances, slim to none.
And 2021, another South African disaster.
Yeah.
AfriCrypt. Two brothers allegedly disappeared with maybe $3.6 billion in Bitcoin. The exact numbers debated. Investigations ongoing.
But the core fact is undeniable. They vanished with customer money. Huge global attention, lawsuits flying. But as of 2022, zero recovery for victims. These giant scams really show how the newness, the complexity, the lack of rules in crypto created perfect conditions for new kinds of fraud. Old school due diligence often just wasn't enough.
And beyond these headline-grabbing Ponzi, it's just a relentless flood of other scams. Phishing, tricking you into giving up your keys with fake websites, fake emails.
Monster threat.
Impersonation scams pretending to be legit projects, famous people, even Elon Musk promising to double your crypto.
Happens all the time.
And the latest, really nasty one, pig butchering romance scams.
Oh, those are awful.
Fraudsters build these long-term relationships online, sometimes months. Romance, friendship, pure manipulation, slowly convince the victim to invest in fake crypto platforms or just send crypto directly, then boom, drain the account, disappear. It's psychological warfare mixed with financial ruin.
Truly insidious. And the human cost across all these scams is just immense. The FTC in the U.S. said over 46,000 Americans lost over $1 billion to crypto scams between Jan 2021 and March 2022.
$1 billion.
And the median loss, around $2,600. Doesn't sound huge to some, maybe, but for many, that's everything. Life savings, emergency fund, kids' college money, gone. These are real lives shattered.
And it's everywhere, global. The UK lost $306 million, about $370 million to crypto fraud in the year to March 2023, a 41% jump. Australia, $1,821 million wiped out in 2022. It's real people, real families, real savings, just gone. And recovery, extremely rare. Which, let's be blunt, usually means never.
Never, yeah.
Okay, so you could lose your own money by accident. Others can steal it via hacks and scams. But sometimes, the most painful way, the losses come from the companies you actually trusted, the exchanges, the lenders, that crypto saying, not your keys, not your coins. In these cases, it stops being advice. It becomes an epitaph written on the tombstone of a collapsed company.
Exactly. When you put your crypto on a centralized platform, an exchange, a lender, you're basically giving them a loan. You're handing over control of your keys, your assets. And if they screw up, mismanagement, ego, reckless gambling, outright fraud, you, the customer, pay the price. Often lose everything. There's no FDIC insurance like with a bank. Business failure or crime becomes total loss for users. It's a risk almost unthinkable in regulated finance.
Let's revisit some major implosions. Quadrig ACX 2019. Canada's biggest exchange back then. The CEO, Gerald Cotton, dies suddenly overseas, supposedly taking the only keys to the company's cold wallets with him.
Right, the offline storage. Super secure unless you lose the only key.
Exactly. Left C, $250 million, maybe US, $190 million, inaccessible, owed to 115,000 customers. Just locked away.
But the story got even darker, didn't it? The investigation later found Cotton wasn't just holding the keys. He was running a full-blown Ponzi inside the exchange.
Seriously?
Yeah. Lost at least $169 million tad of customer money through fake trading, spending it himself. Only about $46 million was ever recovered. People were so suspicious they were talking about digging up his body to prove he was dead. It was just this insane mix of incompetence and fraud. Not a hack, just internal collapse.
Wow. And then the big one, FTX 2022. Sam Bankman-Fried, crypto's golden boy, the supposed savior.
Yeah.
His whole empire just disintegrated in days.
Felt like overnight.
And it wasn't an outside hack. It was breathtaking fraud. Over $8 billion in customer funds, just siphoned off to his hedge fund, Alameda Research. Used for risky trades, lavish spending.
Yeah.
Now called one of the biggest financial frauds in U.S. history.
Bankman-Fried got convicted in 2024. Multiple counts. The judge confirmed users lost about $8 billion, investors another $1.7 billion. Liquidators are trying to scrape assets together, but customers will likely only get pennies on the dollar.
Just a fraction back.
And the scale of this fraud was so huge, Chainalysis had to add $8.7 billion in FTX creditor claims to its 2022 crime stats. It dwarfed most other crypto crime. Showed just how devastating a centralized failure without oversight can be.
And FTX wasn't the only casualty in that brutal 2022 bear market. Companies like Celsius Network, Voyager Digital, big crypto lenders just went belly up, froze billions in user funds. Celsius owed over $4.7 billion.
And again, mostly not hacks, just reckless bets with customer money. Bad loans, no collateral, sheer idiocy by management, often hidden behind complex DeFi talk, zero transparency.
And the result?
Customers got massive haircuts on their deposits. Huge losses as their money got tangled in bankruptcy court. It's a painful lesson, but critical. Deposit crypto on a platform. You're giving them a loan, trusting them completely. If they mess up, you pay. The decentralized promise of crypto just gets shattered by these centralized points of failure in a Wild West ecosystem.
Even Mt. Gox, way back when, it wasn't just hacked. It was mismanaged into the ground over years. Terrible security, no audits, internal chaos. That's what made the hack possible. And creditors waited over a decade for even partial payout.
Yeah. The whole story of these implosions is just a stark warning about trusting unregulated black boxes with your money. It's a situation you just don't see in traditional regulated finance where there are actual consumer protections.
So all these losses, self-inflicted, stolen, imploded, they're not isolated incidents. It's not just a few unlucky people. Collectively, it's a global hemorrhage. The amount of money vanishing into this digital black hole is just astonishing. It affects people everywhere, all walks of life.
Let's just quickly paint that global picture. The U.S. over $1 billion in crypto fraud losses reported Jan 21 to March 22, mostly investment scams. Yeah, the DOJ had wins, like the Bitfinex recovery.
But it's an uphill battle.
Constantly. And remember those state actors? North Korean hackers, like Lazarus, stole over $1 billion in crypto between 2017 and 2022. And that's not just theft. It's national security. That money demonstrably funds their weapons programs, missiles, nukes.
So yeah, in a grim way, for some unlucky victims, their crypto bags are literally helping build nukes.
It's unsettling, right? Across the Atlantic, Europe, UK, feeling the pain. UK lost $306 million, about $370 million, to crypto fraud in the year to March 23, a huge 41% jump. Europol keeps warning about rising criminal misuse across the continent. Small wins, like Germany seizing Bitcoin from a darknet market, yes, but often overshadowed by the sheer volume of loss.
Asia. Sadly, the birthplace of some epic Ponzis. One coin plus token. China's police did grab that $4 billion from Plus Token, which was impressive. And interestingly, Japan and South Korea, after getting hammered by exchange hacks like Gox and CoinCheck, they actually started to, get off their butts and regulate. Try to bring some order.
Recognizing the need for protection, finally. Then Africa. South Africa hit hard by MTI, AfriCrypt, we talked about those. Nigeria, Kenya have their own local Ponzis preying on communities. The uncounted losses in these regions, probably astronomical, often goes unreported. Lack of channels, lack of trust, maybe shame.
And down under. Australia lost $221 million to crypto scams in 2022. Total scam losses hit records in 2023. Crypto, a big part. They even have these crypto ATM scams now. People tricked into feeding cash into a machine that sends it straight to scammers.
Innovation in crime, I guess. So when you add it all up, hacks, scams, implosions, the total damage, eye-watering. Chainalysis tracked illicit crypto volume, $14 billion in 2021, jumped to $20.1 billion in 2022. Then add FTX's internal fraud. That 2022 number balloons to around $24 billion.
$24 billion.
And 2023. After updates, ongoing cases, a staggering $46 billion in illicit volume identified.
$46 billion.
Just let that sink in. Tens of billions. Okay, not all of it is direct victim loss. Some is darknet sales or whatever. Yeah. But a huge chunk is victims' money. Gone. Forever. It's this relentless race. Scams, exploits, fraud. They evolve way faster than regulators can even figure out what blockchain means, let alone create effective rules.
Way faster.
Which brings us, I guess, to the brutal punchline, the core idea here, this grand dream of decentralization, right? This trustless system that was going to free us. In so many ways, it just recreated everything it claimed it would destroy, but often it did it worse. We got new middlemen, sure. Just unregulated exchanges instead of regulated banks. We got new black boxes, opaque DeFi protocols, complex code nobody understands, instead of maybe slightly less opaque financial firms.
Yeah.
We got unchecked risk. Cult leaders promising the moon and delivering disaster. Criminal enterprises thriving, sometimes on a scale that's hard to do in traditional finance, precisely because there's no sheriff in town. And host, isn't it striking how many of these huge failures, despite the decentralized label, are actually centralized points of failure? Exchanges, lenders.
That is a critical point.
Yeah.
Does it show a fundamental flaw in how it all evolved, or just human nature finding the weak spots again? And here's the absolute gut punch for the user, the thing that affects you.
Yeah.
When your money disappears in crypto, there's no 1-800 number. No FDIC insurance, no government bailout cavalry riding to the rescue.
Nothing.
Just a transaction ID on a public ledger. An immutable record of your funds going, bye-bye. Cold comfort for an empty wallet, isn't it? This hasn't been the future of finance. It's been a bloody expensive lesson. And the tuition bills are still coming due. Due diligence isn't optional. It's literally the only thing between you and ruin.
And this gets to the absolute core truth of the tech, that ruthless design. The protocol, the code itself, it doesn't protect you. It protects itself, its rules, its integrity as a ledger. If you lose your coins, if they get stolen. That's not a bug. That's the system doing exactly what it was built for. Execute commands without mercy. Follow the rules no matter the outcome for humans.
Blockchain was sold as the cure for financial corruption, right? No middlemen skimming, no bailouts for banks, no biased human judgment, just pure code. Cold, perfect code, the ultimate arbiter.
But that purity is exactly the problem.
Oh, so?
When you strip out all the human layers, the judges interpreting intent, the banks reversing fraud, the fraud departments investigating, the customer support helping fix mistakes, what are you left with? You're left with a system that has only one directive. Follow instructions, exactly as written in the code. Even if those instructions are disastrous for a user, even if they were put there by a hacker, the code just runs. It doesn't care about intent, ethics, consequences for people.
Give us some examples of how that plays out.
Okay. A misconfigured smart contract. One with a bug or maybe a deliberate backdoor. Once it's on the blockchain, it runs autonomously. It will drain your wallet to zero, that's what the code says. No human override, no undo, no support ticket, no court appeal. The blockchain just records your loss permanently.
Right. The code executes. End of story.
Or compromise keys. The protocol doesn't care who holds the private key. It only cares if the signature is valid. If your key gets stolen phishing, malware, you wrote it on a Post-it note, the blockchain sees a valid signature. Transaction approved, funds move irreversibly to the attacker. Because the system only checks the signature's validity, not the morality or intent behind it. Code is blind to right and wrong. It only sees valid or invalid.
And those oracles, the things feeding real-world data into blockchains for DeFi.
Another weak point. DeFi needs real-world info prices, stock prices, weather data for insurance contracts. Oracles provide that, but if someone manipulates an oracle, feeds it bad data, the blockchain just accepts it, faithfully records it, acts on it. It can't tell a real price from a fake one. It just sees data, which can lead to massive losses for anyone whose smart contract relied on that now corrupted data.
So these aren't just glitches, bugs to be fixed.
No, not fundamentally. These are the direct, logical results of a system specifically designed to prioritize trustlessness and immutability above everything else. The very features that make blockchains decentralized and censorship-resistant are the same features that remove the safety nets, the reversibility, the fraud protection, the error correction that we rely on in traditional finance.
So every hack, every exploit, every irreversible theft we've talked about, they weren't accidents.
In a way, no. They were the logical, inevitable consequences of building a system to remove the need for trust. And, in doing so, accidentally removing the mechanisms for accountability and fixing things when they go wrong. In chasing absolute autonomy, crypto created a landscape where rules are absolute, execution is merciless, and human error or malice leads straight to irreversible financial ruin.
That leads to a bigger, maybe more disturbing thought, doesn't it? About automation in general.
I think so. Look, crypto didn't fail just because of human greed, though there was plenty of that. It failed, in many instances, because it was pure logic, pure automation, pure execution. It lacks judgment. It lacks safety nets. It lacks second chances at the protocol level. The bad outcomes weren't always bugs. They were features of that purity.
And that sounds alarmingly familiar with AI, doesn't it? We're building systems that obey perfectly but understand nothing. Systems that amplify human goals but strip away human accountability. Algorithms that execute flawlessly based on data but have no ethics, no ability to question if they should do something.
Exactly. Think about it. Bitcoin and a lot of crypto, it's a machine that treats a scam, a hack, and a legitimate transfer identically. Why? Because it was told to follow the rules of valid signatures, and it obeys. Not because it's evil. It can't be evil because it's code. And code never asks, is this right? It only asks, is this valid according to my rules? That's the profound lesson we need to absorb as we build more trustless, code-driven systems everywhere.
Yeah. It has truly been a bloody, expensive education for millions, and the lessons are still being learned, often the hard way. It really drives home that personal due diligence. It's maybe the only thing standing between you and financial disaster in this kind of environment.
So as we finish up this deep dive, maybe the thought to leave you with, the listener, is this, and it goes way beyond crypto. What does it really mean when we build systems where accountability is removed by design? Where human error leads to catastrophe with no built-in fix? Where logic is absolute and unforgiving? And what are the bigger implications as we keep building these trustless, code-based systems, not just in finance, but everywhere, healthcare, transport, how we're governed?
Keep asking those tough questions.
Yeah.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
And always think critically as our world gets more automated. We'll see you on the next deep dive.